In 1955, Caterpillar dominated the heavy crawler market without serious competition. Then, General Motors unveiled a twin-engine giant built to change that. The Euclid TC-12 paired two Detroit diesel 671 engines in a single machine, each driving its own track through a completely independent powertrain. No steering clutches, no steering brakes. At 388 combined gross horsepower, it was the most powerful bulldozer of its era. General Motors even recruited one of Caterpillar's own crawler specialists to build it, but radical engineering and raw power don't always win a market. In 1952, General Motors hired R.C. Williams, the former assistant director of research at Caterpillar, to spearhead their entry into track-type tractor development. To secure an immediate production facility and an established dealer network, GM purchased Euclid Road Machinery on September 30, 1953, for $20 million. On January 1, 1954, GM officially reorganized the acquisition as its newest corporate division, transferring Williams to the position of manager of crawler tractor engineering. Under his leadership, the team developed a massive twin-engine machine. By July 1954, the first TC-12 prototype began trials at GM's Milford test grounds. The vehicle underwent months of rigorous evaluation, testing the limits of the twin-engine crawler on steep grades and heavy clay to prepare it for commercial production. In late August 1955, General Motors launched its massive Power-ama exhibition on the Chicago lakefront. This spectacular public showcase served as the official launchpad for the first production-ready TC-12. Euclid's marketing material boldly claimed the new machine was the largest, heaviest, and most powerful bulldozer on Earth. These period promotional claims targeted the very heart of the heavy equipment market, where Caterpillar held undisputed dominance. By introducing a machine of unprecedented physical scale, powered by duplicated propulsion, GM intended to disrupt conventional earth-moving standards. This headline-grabbing power was designed to prove that Euclid could deliver more tractive effort than Caterpillar's newly released D9. For GM, the massive tractor was a direct bid to seize control of the lucrative post-war infrastructure boom, forcing the industry to look closely at the radical mechanical architecture under the green paint. The structural foundation of this mechanical design sits directly within the frame, where two completely independent powertrains operate side by side. Power originates from two Detroit diesel 671 engines. These are inline-six, two-stroke diesels with a displacement of approximately 426 cubic inches per engine. Each engine features a roots-blown, naturally aspirated configuration, drawing air through its own blower and exhausting through separate stacks. Each individual engine possesses its own cooling system, fuel delivery network, and electrical starting mechanism, operating as a self-sustaining power unit. The design does not combine these two power sources into a single, central transmission. Rather, the engineers isolated the power paths entirely. The left engine is assigned solely to the left track, while the right engine is assigned solely to the right track. From the flywheel of each engine, the power flows directly back into a dedicated Allison powershift transmission mounted on that specific side of the machine. From the output shaft of each transmission, the torque moves straight to its corresponding final drive, which rotates the drive sprocket and pulls the track chain. No mechanical connection, cross-shaft, or differential links these two propulsion systems. While a heavy central steel structure physically joins the two halves of the tractor to create a single earth-moving vehicle, the left and right powertrains do not share a single gear, shaft, or drop of oil. The machine operates as two completely distinct mechanical units running in parallel. This mirrored layout ensures that the power path on one side remains entirely unaffected by what is happening on the other, establishing a true dual-path propulsion system from front to back. Each Detroit diesel 671 engine was rated at 194 horsepower at 2,100 revolutions per minute, yielding a stated combined output of 388 gross horsepower. It is essential to distinguish this gross flywheel rating from the actual tractive effort delivered to the ground. The 388 horsepower figure represents pure engine output before the mechanical losses incurred through the torque converters, planetary gear sets, and heavy final drives. To manage this output, Euclid mounted an Allison powershift transmission on each side of the tractor. However, identifying the exact transmission specifications reveals a distinct division in surviving technical records. Some period parts catalogs and service documents identify these gearboxes as the Allison CR T-553-1-1, a 3-speed power shift unit. In contrast, other historical trade sheets describe different forward and reverse gear counts or simply list the transmission model as unspecified. This documentation conflict extends to the engine ratings. While the 388 horsepower figure is widely accepted for early production runs, later marketing materials and service manuals claim an upgraded output of 227 horsepower per engine, pushing the combined rating to approximately 454 gross horsepower. Because General Motors continuously refined the machine during its life cycle, these conflicting archival records remain unresolved, leaving the exact transmission model variations and mid-production power increases unconfirmed. To guide this dual-path power system, the operator relies on independent control inputs for the two propulsion sides. Instead of a conventional steering clutch and brake assembly, the operator manipulates two separate throttle levers, each mechanically linked to the fuel rack of its respective Detroit diesel engine. For straight travel, pushing both levers forward delivers matched power to both tracks. To execute a turn, the operator reduces the throttle on one side, causing the machine to pivot toward that slower-moving track. Pulling one lever back while pushing the other forward sends opposing track commands, allowing the 40-ton tractor to spin on its own axis. While period documentation sometimes characterizes this as individual transmission control, the actual operating effect is throttle-based differential speed. However, this absence of steering clutches does not mean the tractor lacks braking. Stopping remains an entirely separate function. When the operator closes both throttles, the hydraulic service brakes, conventional drums mounted on each final drive, act as the dedicated mechanical stopping hardware. This design keeps steering wear separate from stopping duties, ensuring the massive crawler can hold its position even on steep slopes. The physical layout of the machine relies on a split chassis. Instead of a single, rigid mainframe, the TC-12 is divided down the center into two separate tractor halves. A heavy central pivoting connection joins these two sections, allowing them to oscillate longitudinally and independently of one another. As the machine moves over uneven terrain, one entire half can rise while the other dips. This longitudinal rocking is entirely separate from the yaw articulation used to steer. This structural behavior differs from a conventional crawler tractor. In a standard design, the track frames oscillate beneath a rigid mainframe that houses the engine and transmission. On the TC-12, the moving halves are complete independent structures, each carrying its own engine and powertrain. This independent oscillation ensures that both tracks maintain ground contact on highly irregular surfaces, improving traction and managing structural stress. While some archival reports list precise movement limits, such as 70 degrees of yaw and 5 degrees of pitch, these exact limits remain unverified. Documentation varies when describing the physical hinge hardware, with historical accounts referencing a central pin, a crossbeam, roller guides, or load path stops. Rather than defining the hardware by a single configuration, the design operates on a unified pivoting load path principle, distributing massive physical forces directly through the central joint. In daily field operations, this dual-path design translated to superior traction and a remarkable ability to traverse highly uneven terrain without losing ground contact. However, operating the machine under load demanded constant operator vigilance to keep both engines and transmissions synchronized. Mechanics faced a doubled maintenance routine, servicing two of everything: engines, power shift transmissions, final drives, cooling radiators, and control linkages. Fuel consumption was notably high, with estimates pointing to 30 gallons per hour under heavy workloads. Field reports and retrospective accounts also note persistent operational headaches, including rapid wear on the throttle linkages, lubrication concerns at the central articulation bearing, and cooling system leaks under sustained high loads. The twin powertrains also placed immense stress on track chains and final drives. If a single component failed on one side, the entire 40-ton tractor was effectively sidelined, This complex service profile clashed directly with the simpler logic of conventional single-engine crawlers, where fleet owners and dealers benefited from familiar parts support and straightforward maintenance habits. In October 1956, Euclid introduced the upgraded TC-12, bringing key structural reinforcements to the undercarriage. This revision featured an improved 7-roller track frame and a stronger 44-section track chain built to withstand the immense ground forces of the dual powertrains. Factory records indicate Euclid offered the machine in standard, high-lift, and mining configurations. While delivery estimates vary across historical sources, parts manual serial numbers ranging from 1,000 to 1,900 suggest a total production run of approximately 900 units. These machines found work in heavy earth-moving operations, including open-pit mining, major highway cuts, and large dam projects. Yet, the TC-12 achieved only limited market penetration, failing to displace Caterpillar's dominant single-engine crawlers. Rather than a single mechanical failure, a combination of high purchase costs, logistical transport hurdles, and maintenance complexity hindered widespread adoption. The program reached its corporate endpoint in 1968 when General Motors divested the Euclid division, closing this ambitious chapter in twin-engine engineering. Museum and restoration records compiled through 2023 identify at least 5 surviving examples of this twin-engine design. In Ohio, a fully operational machine nicknamed the Jolly Green Giant demonstrates the split-frame operation at heritage events. Another complete survivor resides in a private collection in north-central Texas. Overseas, documentation tracks 3 more machines associated with New Zealand, Australia, and the United Kingdom, though these regional records do not constitute a definitive census. While other units were scrapped or absorbed into private collections after long service, these remaining machines preserve a radical engineering concept. The TC-12 remains a documented departure from standard crawler layouts. Although some historians suggest this split-chassis architecture influenced later Euclid or Terex earth movers, factory documentation remains thin, keeping those developmental links conditional rather than certain. Today, these surviving machines stand as physical records of mid-century industrial ambition. Today, the few surviving TC-12s do more than preserve history. They remind us of an era when heavy equipment engineers dared to ignore conventional limits. This twin-engine giant proves that lasting legacy isn't always measured in market dominance, but in the sheer audacity of design. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments.